Hi, Pompano Beach. It's City Commissioner Allison Fournier. The day after the election, I received a call from the city manager's office. They needed to schedule an emergency joint session of the city and the CRA to consider a term sheet. I let the city manager's office know that I didn't think that this lame duck commission should be making big strategic decisions. They moved forward with scheduling the meeting anyway. You elected new people on Tuesday for the future, and those are the people that should be making important decisions. They are installed on November 19th, just 1 week after this emergency session. So what is the emergency? Well, it's a term sheet. It is a landmark land swap between Pompano Beach and Broward County. This is all the details that they provided. 7 pages, a couple pictures. There are no appraisals, there are no values, there is nothing that allows me to analyze whether this is a good deal for you. So I went back to the city manager to get more information. We are giving the county a 3.8 acre parcel of land that's valued at about $3.5 million. We are also committing to putting in 400 parking spaces when commuter rail comes to Pompano Beach. That's $12 million of value. We are also giving an option to the county to buy an adjacent parcel of land. What is Pompano Beach getting? We are getting a small 1.4 acre retention area in the strategic downtown. The same downtown where we're going to spend $400 million over the next 30 years to build a new city hall. This deal is a net swing of $13 million or more away from the taxpayers of Pompano Beach. This is expensive. And the process of trying to push it through with a lame duck commission is wrong. This process and this deal are the exact reasons why people don't trust government.
On this item. Please come forward. Just give your name and address for the record. Limit your comments to 3 minutes. No, please, I need anybody to come forward to the microphone. We've got to have you on record. Just name and address in 3 minutes. Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carol Eisman. I live at 4020 West Palmier Drive, number 311. Pompano 33069. A couple of questions that bother me. The one thing that I didn't hear was what kind of jobs? 3,000 jobs. Well, that's great, but in this area, what kind of jobs are we talking about? And let me explain why that is really important to me. Because if you're talking about retail jobs and restaurant jobs, that's great. But the rents that these developers are looking to charge, people can't pay them. As an example, those of you that know the building on Dixie Highway and McNabb, when I called to find out what their rent schedule was, I couldn't believe it. They called it a luxury building. Well, I've been in it. That's not luxury. And the 1-bedroom, 729 square feet, was over $2,000. So I want to know what kind of jobs we're talking about when we talk about 3,000 jobs. I'm also very bothered that we have commissioners that are not being noticed and being fully informed of what's going on in their district when they're making such major changes. I think that we need to really step back today. I'm sorry to hear that the motion to table was not there. And also, why are you guys making the decision today when you have new elected officials that are going to be taking over in a week? So why don't you put it off, get some answers that are still out there? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll just ask you once again, please refrain from any outbursts like that. That's so we can get through this. Go ahead, sir. Name and address for the record.
Paul Calamera, 651 Southeast 8th Ave, Pompano. We own 6 properties, all in Pompano Beach, District 2, 3, and 1. I think it's ridiculous. What the young lady said is right. Lame duck. And also, ma'am, you mentioned something about taxes.
Sir, just to the microphone.
Mike, okay, yeah. You mentioned taxes. Are you guaranteeing this whole project our taxes won't go up? I got 6 properties. That's a lot of taxes.
We don't make those kind of guarantees, sir.
Ah, okay. So then that means it's worthless even mentioning it. Why even mention that taxes aren't going to go up if you can't guarantee it? Lame duck, you guys are doing wrong.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your input. Next speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, please, I don't want to have to clear the room.
Roderick Phillips, 2620 Northwest 10th Street, Pompano Beach, Florida. Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, give honor to the spirit of inclusion in the city of Pompano. Beverly Perkins happened to have another team on her side. We agree with her 100%. I ask you, Commissioner, to start giving respect to District 4 and showing that you care about the city of Pompano Beach, Florida. Ms. Perkins has been here for a while, and you need to start giving her the respect that is due. Voting against her on this district in 4, where we have multiple development, we got mass people coming in, and you want to block her out of what she has to say for her district, that's not fair. That's what you're doing. You're looking out for yourself. It's looking out and not looking out for the community as a whole, Mayor. You need to stop that. You need to start agreeing and showing her more respect as a commissioner on this dais. I think she's been the longest serving, and we need to give her her due respect. She has a new team that has joined her in her quest, whether she liked it or not, to help her develop her district and to show y'all that you can't keep keeping her out. You got to stop it. And that's what I got to say. And to the people that's in this, what's the rush? What's the rush? We got so much going on to the city. It is chaos and confusion. Developers has cash flow. You saying that developers spent some money? Developers has cash flow. They got a cash flow. They never take a risk without knowing the profit flow. So when you tell us that they took a risk, I disagree. They're not taking a risk. They're going to make money off of the taxpayers in our community.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Off the people that are living here, they're going to make money. So it's not a risk. And I ask you all to say no to all this mass development. Stop it. It got to stop. Start getting BSO to go and help with the homeless. You don't say nothing about the homeless. BSO help Ms. Perkins with the homeless situation in District 4. We got a development, a new. Thank you, Ms. Fournier, for coming out to the grand opening. But in that grand opening, we got a child care center there, and you are welcome in the morning time going to get your vegetables by the homeless people sitting outside posting up every morning. So help BSO, help Ms. Perkins with the homeless situation. And y'all stop it. Stop turning her down when she ain't making requests. Just stop it. We got a new regime coming in.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next speaker. Just name and address for the record.
Mel Steffen, 298 Southeast 6th Avenue in Pompano. This needs to be tabled until a new commission gets in. And one other thing I had to say is, Mr. Harrison, Mr. Harden, Mrs. McGee, and Mr. Moss, please stand up and resign.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please. Let's next speaker.
Hi, my name is Lori Cooper. I live at 1031 Northeast 28th Avenue in Pompano Beach. I was at the original presentation for the entire downtown, and it looked very exciting, very bright, very shiny. The people that did the presentation, and they highlighted the city that they were from in Georgia. In that particular city and in that area, they have close to 20 corporate headquarters in that area. They have Delta Airlines, they have UPS, they have Verizon, to name just a few. but there's in the neighborhood of 20 or more. So their project was very, very successful. My husband and I have gone to another project probably starting at 2014 to 2016 on Okeechobee Avenue in West Palm. If you go down Okeechobee, go east, you make a left-hand turn on Rosemary. About 2 blocks away there's 2 train tracks. One is the Tri-Rail, the other one is the Bright Line. And this project, when we first went, probably less than 10 years ago, they had Cheesecake Factory, Macy's, all the stores. Over the years, those stores slowly closed. Macy's is gone. All of the stores, Restoration Hardware, everything has been shut down. We recently went there 1 week. There were no more stores left. So my concern is you're asking the taxpayers, the developers, the city to go ahead and put this on our plate. With the bond that were recently done, that was close to $5,000 a year on my taxes. So now you're asking me just for a garage. What was it? How much was the garage?
It's multiple
Yeah,
millions of dollars.
$30,000 a space. So my concern is if this project fails, we don't really have high jobs in this area. I mean, for you guys, maybe, but are you willing to put your pension, your livelihood on this? Because you're asking us to do it. And we're the ones that live here, we're the ones that pay in taxes, we're the ones that voting, and we're the ones that eventually will be here. Maybe some of you won't, but I will be here. So that's what my big concern is that, you know, this gal over here says that she's concerned with it failing, and
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Very good. Next speaker. Just name and address for the record.
Hi, Cindy Doherty, 932 Southeast 10th Court in Pompano Beach.
One moment. Ladies and gentlemen, please, can we keep the conversation down? If you need a conversation, take it out in the lobby. Thank you.
So I have three things I want to address. Number one, does this land swap have an expiration date that necessitated an emergency meeting? I would say probably not. Number two, obviously there are some people who don't have all the information. Why that is, I don't know. Number three, do we not already have a commuter rail line on Andrews Avenue called Tri-Rail? That most cars are already empty, so are we proposing a different city-wide only rail system? What kind of rail system is being proposed when we already have Tri-Rail? And it's right there. And you don't have to mess up all of the Dixie Atlantic thoroughfare with more traffic when Andrews has plenty of opportunity up on that area. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mayor.
Next speaker.
Mary Phillips, 384 Northwest 19th Street, Pompano Beach, Florida. First of all, I want to say BSO has been very helpful to my company. We rent property located where my brother-in-law was talking about. Whenever we call BSO, they're there, they come, they move those people from that area. So I want to give my kudos to BSO. Thank you very much for helping us get that homeless situation under control where our business is located. So that's been very beneficial. I don't want to straighten that out, okay? Nextly, I just want to say about that mass transit. When Broward County first brought that to us, they told us that there would have been some kind of connectivity situation there. When they put it there, they promised a lot of things. They promised that there was going to be a child care center and all of that. That did not materialize, and it ended up just being a bus station. I like the idea of being a commuter station simply because our thoughts were that people could be able to even get the Greyhound bus from there and travel to different locations throughout South Florida. So I like that idea. I think it's a great idea. And as far as the Annie L. Weaver, that building needs to be torn down, and I'm going to tell you why. Have any of you ever walked inside that building and see how they've configured it? How it's all cut up? It doesn't make any sense. We have Broward Health with a small portion of that building. If they can knock that building down and take the rest of that land and give us something that's really nice for the community, that would be beneficial. I believe the zoning for that property is community use or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. I do not want to see apartments where it's located. I live in walking distance of that building in Kendall Lakes. And if you're all going to do anything with that parcel, please notify the community that's most affected. That's Kendall Lakes, as well as the Leisureville communities affected by it, because we're surrounding it. I believe Liberty Park or Sanders Park is in the back of it, but it's right on the main street where we're located, where my community is located. So I think that I think it would serve us to have a better building than what we have there. I remember when it was a nice building, when it wasn't so cut up, and it was very usable, okay? But the other thing I want to say is progress costs money. And if we're going to progress in this Pompano Beach, it's going to cost us money. No matter what way you shake it or push it, we're going to have to pay to have the progress that we need. And we got to be accountable for how people are going to be able to move around. They're trying to work out some connectivity for us. I like the idea of the bridge because children have to go across Dixie Highway to go to school, that middle school that's over there. So I like that idea, a bridge going across so that people don't have to try to go across the street, okay? But thank you very much, okay?
Thank you. Next speaker. Just name and address for the record, please.
Linda Silverstein, 713 Southwest First Terrace, Pompano Beach, 33060. I just wanted to say I'm looking forward to a reimagined downtown. I'd love to see Pompano Beach maintain the village feel, and I'm concerned about a project that just looks like a mini Fort Lauderdale and may not be able to be sustained, as some people were saying. But what I did want to mention was, you know, cars need to go through and people need to walk through, but I'd like you to add language around bikers and biking. My husband and I fully intend to bike to the station and park our bikes there and take the train. We don't take the one on St. Andrews. I like the idea of having one here and dropped off right where there's action happening, but I want to encourage you to include bike parking and bikers as one of the populations that'll be interacting with that center. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker. Just name and address for the record, please.
Name is Robert Scharf, 1261 Southeast 9th Avenue here in Pompano Beach. I know that the city hires a lot of contractors to do all different types of things. Has the city ever thought about having their own building department and own road departments so that they don't get screwed in prices from contractors?
We do have a building department, and we've got roads are maintained by our Public Works Department.
Your own Public Works Department?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm surprised.
Absolutely. Yes. Very good.
You're saying how much it costs. It sounds like that's a contractor.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Next speaker. Just name and address for the record.
Robert Pearsons, 171 Southeast 14th Street, Pompano Beach. I heard the outcry from the audience a little earlier. Some may be reluctant to come up here and actually speak, but I would support the commissioner's motion and recommendation to table this item and let the new commission make these decisions. We heard the group behind us had that same feeling. I don't think we need them all to come up. If they would just stand up and be represented, that would give you a better indication of how many people are against this and want the new commission to make decisions.
Very good. Thank you for that, sir. Next speaker. Please come forward. Just name and address for the record.
Skaversky, 1630 Southwest 5th Avenue, Pompano Beach, Florida. First of all, you're not interested in giving out information on appraisals or anything on the parking garage because the big one at the beach cost $47 million with interest. Remember that one? So you like to hide the numbers. You don't want the people to laugh at.
Mr. Skaversky.
Second of all, out of everybody here, and I see just about all white people here, when you had the meeting at Pat Larkin's with this project, It was darn near 100% of the people, of course they were all black, and there was one white person there, were all against this project. Am I correct or not? All the blacks are against this going on in their neighborhood. So I don't understand how any of you could sit up here and think and be proud that you're going to vote on something, especially when we have a new commission coming in, when the majority of the people in that area are against it. I don't think it's fair, and I don't think it's correct. And finally, Andrea, I think you do know I like you and your mom and your sister. I think you're all great. Your dad, I don't really know.
Mr. Skaversky,
Hold on, I'm talking.
Does this have to do with the item?
Sit there and behave. You barely won your election against somebody that didn't spend a nickel.
Does this have to do with the item, sir? Can you please stick to the item?
You are no longer beholden to this commission. You are no longer beholden to them to tell you what to say. As a conservative, I really think you should think about this. I think you should think about voting with the people and agreeing with that person in her district because the high majority are against it. You've been used for years. I know what it's like to be used. We'll keep that to ourselves because you remember we talked about that at early voting. At least you got compensated. Walk out of here with your head up high. Listen to the people that live in her district and listen to the people out here.
Very good. Next speaker. Just name and address to the record.
Yeah, good afternoon to the commission. My name is Gerard Weber, and I live at 2761 Northeast 5th Street, Pompano, for the last 40 years. I like redevelopment. I like the beach, how they did it, and the parking, but you got, everything costs money now that, when I want to go to the restaurants, I got to pay for parking. I can't even go, like on Atlantic, they started charging parking last year for, out of the blue. The other thing that came to mind was about 3 years ago when they started this Dixie Atlantic expansion, and they said about the safety of the children, that a consultant that they hired filmed the amount of traffic crossing the street on Dixie and Atlantic. There were only 7 kids crossing the street. This whole thing was about safety and calming down and everything else. How much would it cost to build that overpass if there's only, say, 20 kids going to school? They could ride a limousine from across the street and take them directly to the school without all this millions of dollars being spent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your input. Next speaker. Just name and address for the record.
Hello, Commission. I'm Darlene Smith, 3200 North Course Lane, apartment 213, Pompano Beach. And I was fortunate enough to be elected this last week, and I'll be one of the new commissioners sitting up there. But I want to say that I believe in the downtown development. I believe that it will make a good, solid economic foundation for our city. It's going to provide a tax base for everyone in Pompano Beach. In June, we committed to moving forward. The downtown project, legal documents have been written. It's moving forward. So we're talking today about changing that. Well, we already are committed. It'll be 20 years of planning, and we're finally in the implementation stage, as Suzette pointed out in her slides. The downtown project's going to take over 10 years. With the commission being reelected every 2 years, we could have 5 lame ducks commissions sitting up here. We can't stop each time something comes up for a vote. Today's decision is a swap. It's a swap of property inside the corridor of downtown with property outside. It is not a money exchange. There is a money condition, from my understanding, I too haven't seen it, but a money condition of a commitment to building the garages, the 200 on the east, parking spots on the east and on the west. But we always committed to building those parking from the very beginning. Commissioners, I encourage you to work as a team today, for you to not stop the progress of our downtown and to move forward and make your vote. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Next speaker, please come forward, just name and address to the record.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Audrey Fezzik, and I am also one of the lucky folks who was elected in just this past week.
Address for the record.
My name is Audrey Fezzik, 412 Briney Avenue. Okay, so I have a few things related to different, so I have two questions first. The first question I have is for Suzette. You mentioned that we would be deferring rent for 1 year. What would be the rent terms beyond that for the new City Hall?
So what we usually do, Suzette Sybil, Assistant City Manager again, Mayor. So what we usually do when we have to align cash flows is we taper the increase in debt service. So when you issue debt or you have an obligation to pay, i.e. lease payments that I discussed earlier, you basically want to align the cash flows. So there's a deferred first year rent. So first of all, we don't pay any rent during design and construction. There's a deferred first year of rent. And then I believe it's for the first, I would have to go back and check, 2 or 3 years after that, it's an escalation of rent so that we don't take the full load. And again, as Commissioner Forney pointed out, it was $12 million. That's the cap. We control the cost of all of our civic buildings. We get to value engineer that. We will be overseeing the process with our partners.
So it's $12 million, and then that's the cap, and then for how long is that term?
As I said earlier, it's 30 years.
30 years, okay. So I just wanted to, there's a whole lot more questions, but I just wanted to, since I have a limited amount of time, the people have been upset about this particular project for quite some time. For months, I know I attended several meetings, and even last year, several meetings. There's not really have been an opportunity for real numbers to be provided, and there's not been an opportunity for the, anything other than a marketing spin or a beautiful PDF, which does look very nice and fancy. The problem that we have is that this particular agenda item is a binding agreement. Is there any way that we can alter this to be non-binding if you were going to try to pass this or to come to some sort of terms? I understand on the county level it's non-binding. Is that something, Mr. Berman, you might be able to address?
Are you asking about the term sheet?
Yes.
Or are you asking about the master development agreement?
No, the term sheet specifically today with agenda related.
It's a term sheet is typically not binding to the extent that it's the final agreement, but it's certainly binding if it's approved by the county and by the commission and by the CRA, and the intention is to have a binding agreement.
Okay. I did provide earlier today a petition to everybody's email that the public who could not, most of whom could not make it. At the time I came up here, there were 464 signatures currently, and I'm sure there's still a few more people. I would like to just mention that with the lack of information, I would just encourage a no vote on this since we're not okay with tabling it. 20 years of planning, to me, and I appreciate, and I'm not discounting the hard work of the staff that has been involved, but 20 years of planning, I question why that can't wait another 2 or 3 weeks or another month so we can have all the information provided, so people can feel that there's transparency provided, so people can understand what they're signing up for as taxpayers. It's just, I'm encouraging a no vote from you guys, and it's just, it's just not a great way to start off a working relationship with a new commission either. When it feels like there's a blatant disregard for the taxpayers and residents based on those who just voted no to, everybody wants this no. So many people have come here to express their displeasure at this being rushed through. And so would just really, as business is no longer an emergency, I would just ask again that either reconsider tabling this or we go ahead and just vote no on this. Thank you very much.
Very good, thank you. Next speaker. Please go ahead and come forward. If you're going to speak, please come forward somewhat so we can keep moving. So then this will be the last speaker, is that it? Just okay, last speaker. Just name and address.
Good afternoon, everyone. Lauren McGee-Weiss, 2401 Southeast 7th Drive, Pompano Beach. I wanted to say, hey, Mike, I like you too. But I also want to say that I'm really excited to see this is actually moving forward. When I first got into a professional career and I was working at a firm off of Cypress and Andrews, The Tri-Rail station there had a disconnectivity aside from a limited parking area. The fact that Suzette and her team has come up with predominantly an not an overcorrection, but they're providing more parking spaces than any other city made the mistake of not doing. I think Pompano has an excellent opportunity because development happens in cycles. And if anyone has any questions on how built-to-suit leases work, I'm happy to answer those questions. And the ramp-up schedule and the rent abatement for the first year to counteract costs. I couldn't be more floored that the west side of Pompano is going to be having as much nice improvements as the east side. I don't know why people are so against that. And the fact that a commuter rail is coming in with last mile transit and transportation, when we're talking about jobs, we're not just talking about someone who's gonna check your luggage at the Brightline station. We're talking about people that are going to be commuting down to Brickell, commuting to Aventura, working for huge law firms. It allows the community that has been underserved for so long in Pompano to finally have an opportunity to take an economic leap personally. So I hope that everyone realizes the very good and is not going to make a knee-jerk, short-term decision that will affect long-term prosperity. Thanks.
Very good, thank you. Next speaker. So any further speakers beyond this one? If any, please come forward. Ma'am, are you going to speak next? Very good. Go ahead, ma'am. Just name and address for the record.
Jocelyn Jackson. First of all, I would like to let's be clear, crystal clear. There's no gals and boys inside these chambers. That's number one. And number two is my family, other families, they are for this project. As I always say, my mom was raised in the projects. Martin Luther King, across as known as the Ugly Corner. My mom couldn't attend school because she had to work in the farms. And I dare anybody to sit in this audience and say that we don't deserve an upgrade in our community. We do. We do. We deserve nice things too, like they're on the beach, on the northeast area. We deserve that, and we're gonna get that. So for anybody to sit in the audience and say from the sweat, blood, sweat, and tears, from the migrant workers for this city, don't deserve to have something nice, you got to be out your mind. When the pier was being built, all those nice things was going on, we didn't come down here to stop it. So guess what? Y'all got to suck this up, because we moving forward. The downtown is gonna be built. And I promise you, on my little life, I will shut Dr. King down to show you how many people want the development to come. I will shut it down with bodies. I promise you that. And to you, Commissioner Perkins.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm in agreement. We all are in agreement for you to be included with the new development coming in the District 4. We're not against that for you. But we also need you to, you know, when things getting rocky and rough, we don't need you to be shutting down either. We need you to stand 10 toes down. So the license.
What do you mean by shut down?
Hold on.
What are you talking about?
Well, working together with your constituents here.
Yes, I do that.
Okay, sometimes you don't.
I do.
Okay, so I don't want to lose up my minutes being back and forth.
You brought up
with
my
the
name, so I
commissioner.
was just answering.
I want to say this. We moving forward. We excited about it.
Thank you, ma'am.
And thank you.
Appreciate it.
Because that's what it is.
Thank you. Next speaker. Just name and address for the record.
My name is Georgianne McElligott,
I live at 1110 Northeast 6th Street in Pompano. And I don't think anyone is against improving Pompano.
Excuse me, ma'am, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'll give you a little extra time. If we can stop the conversations, please. If you've got conversations, take them out in the lobby. Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am, I'm sorry.
I don't believe that anybody loves this town more than I do. I've been here for 40 years. I was born in Fort Lauderdale. And what gets me riled up and crazy is when a meeting is called an emergency meeting when there are new people coming into this commission. I understand a lot of work has been done, and I appreciate the work that's done, but I think that as a lame duck commission, we need to have it just fair. And Beverly Perkins is she's a great representative for her people. She takes care of her district. Allison is taking care of our district. Great. Transparency and working together and all being one is all that we want. This felt, having an emergency meeting called right after the election, feels like we're being pushed into this thing, and I don't like it. And I don't think it's fair to the taxpayer to shove something down our throat again. So please, can we stop with this? You know, I remember a time when a commissioner had been elected, had been sworn in, and was told that she couldn't vote at that meeting because there was a big thing with the CRA, and it's just an ugly, ugly way to run a city.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Next speaker.
Philip Knapp, 413 Briney. I'm not against redevelopment, and frankly, you've done a lot of great work over the years, but you're rushing this. You're setting a bad precedent. You need to spend more time and vet the numbers and get the people more comfortable with what you're doing. And you have a lot of people against this. So table it and, spend some more time on this. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your input. Next speaker.
Sarah Peterson, 4354 Northwest 9th Avenue. I have a question. If this doesn't pass, what happens legally for the city if this doesn't pass?
Ms. McKenna?
It's actually already been approved. We're just bringing the details forward to let everybody know that we're not writing a check to the county and that Annie Weaver's going to continue. So it's already been approved.
Right. And it was approved in June.
That's correct.
Okay, so the purpose of this meeting is just to say, hey, we're not writing a check, correct?
And to let everybody know that all the services that have been at Annie Weaver for the last 37 years are going to continue, including the city's community court.
You say they're going to continue, but they're not in writing.
There is no discussion that we have had leading up to this in the several years that we've been talking to the county that suggests that the county, which has operated Annie Weaver for the last 37 years, is now going to say, we're not going to do it anymore.
Right.
It's just not any part.
So we're operating in good faith that the county is going to continue these services and improve the Annie Weaver Center.
Well, I can't speak for the county. I can only speak for Pompano and the Pompano CRA. But there is no indication in this record that there is any plan by the county to stop providing services at Annie Weaver.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood that. As somebody who's been following this project for the past 10 years, coming to these commission meetings, the 1 o'clock, when they used to be at 6 o'clock, it really wasn't nobody in here. Then they moved it to 1 o'clock, and it still wasn't nobody in here until there's a red flag sent out, and then everybody shows up, and it's very reactionary. I'm coming from a place, the Northwest District, recently just moved off of 7th Avenue, and if anybody in this audience or in this community knows where 7th Avenue is, it is the completely slum and blighted area of the Northwest District. And coming from that area and knowing that this project is coming forward, I understand that there's not going to be a 100% agreement with everything, but I think this city needs to do better about understanding this isn't happening overnight. This has been going on for years. 10 years, I know I've been following the project, and I've been showing up to these meetings, reading documents that I don't always understand, but guess who do understand them? Consultants and people who you can go and talk to and get the information. And as soon as people come down here and act like there's some type of backdoor stuff, it creates a lot of misinformation and a lot of fear in people. Northwest District already fears this project. That you don't have to say anything else for that to be the truth. But as much as we fear it, we need it, because there's not opportunities there, and our community, our children, the next generation needs that. We're due that, we're owed that, and I think this community, city as a whole, needs to get behind bringing the Northwest District up to what's happening on the east side. Everybody been trying to move on up to the east side since George and Wheezy. It's now time for the Northwest District to bring itself up and follow Commissioner Perkins and how her vision and what she sees with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Thank you. Heather Gilchrist, 1341 Southeast 9th Avenue. Commissioners, can any of you explain to me why this had to be done today and it couldn't wait 2 weeks?
Excuse me, Mayor. May I have your name again? I didn't capture that.
Heather Gilchrist.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Sybil, can you address that? Well, why are we doing this today and not 2 weeks down the road, or a month down the road, or 2 months down the road?
I mean, I'm just really, like 2 weeks,
Sure.
just enough time for the new commission to be seated.
Thank you, Mayor. Suzette Sybil again, Assistant City Manager. So we have a development agreement. We approved it in June. There are obligations for the developer and the city.
Expiring in the next 2 weeks?
Well, there are obligations.
Are there any deadlines in the next 2 weeks?
Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to let her answer the question. Thank you.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Right. There are obligations in the agreement for us. The developer has been working with us in good faith. We are in partnership. We're working forward. We have a pre-approved agreement. This agreement is a significant agreement for the city of Pompano Beach. It lays out obligations, right? As Ms. McKenna previously explained, technically this item is already approved. We wanted to bring it forward because it has a lot of moving points. I did offer the county cash for the parcel, by the way. They did not want cash. They wanted land, right? Commuter rail came up again. I'm already funding it in the finance plan that's already approved, right? There's another parcel that they want the right of first offer if we don't have a need for it, which ironically is located next to Annie Weaver, and that plays into their position because what they told us is that their objective at some point is to expand that facility and expand their health footprint in Broward County, in Pompano Beach, to continue to serve our residents. So again, technically, I'm authorized to do these transactions. We were authorized to make these property exchange transactions because we understand that Annie Weaver is a high-profile building in the city, and it's critical to the Northwest community. We wanted to also highlight and update the commission on our rail discussion because we think that's a critical project for our residents and will benefit our residents significantly in this city. So again, in the spirit of full transparency, business goes on, whether we're transitioning from one commission or another, just like we have a regular city commissioner meeting following this with tons of agenda items, the business of the city continues.
I understand. So, yeah, I will take that as a no, absolutely. Commissioner-elect Smith, I don't remember. I don't-
Yes, yeah, she was here.
I fully respect that business can't always stop, but you mentioned there will be 5 lame duck commissions for a grand total of 10 weeks over the next 10 years, during which we might want to put a pause on business for the 2 weeks between the election and the time the new commission is seated. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect an average of 1 week per year for new commissions to catch up and for the voters who just spoke to be heard. So I'm very familiar with term sheets. So the term sheet is the thing that is being voted on today, correct? Has that term sheet been circulated or made available for the public to review? I worked in venture capital for years. I'm familiar with how complicated they can be. Has anybody presented this to the voters who will be paying for them?
It's in the backup, is correct?
That is correct. It's part of the backup. And again, we have a finance plan for this already approved in June by the City Commission and the CRA Board.
And the term sheet has been at the county level also.
It was approved at the county level today.
Has the public seen it, is my question.
Yes.
It's in the agenda backup, which is public, a record.
Have you presented it?
I just presented it today.
Okay. So it's being presented today and voted on today. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, Mayor Harden, I suffer from the same disease you have, where your face is very transparent, and when you're speaking to voters, you might want to watch how your face looks.
Okay.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Commissioner Fournier?
Can we just clarify some of what was said here quickly on what we're doing today legally? So the item before us says that we are authorizing the proper officials to negotiate and execute appropriate agreements. So this approval of this term sheet gives permission, and this is a question essentially, but it gives permission to the designee in the master development agreement to sign the agreement to actually do the land swap in the future, correct? So if we don't give that designee permission to do that, then we're saying no to this.
You can't really say no because you already committed to it in June.
Why does it say that we are giving the proper officials the authority to negotiate and execute agreements? If we say we don't, so what is this resolution?
As you well know, Commissioner, we frequently bring you a term sheet, and then we have an agreement that grows out of that term sheet that also has boilerplate provisions and that type of thing. That's exactly what we're doing here. As a practical matter, we probably should have used the word ratify rather than approve because you approved it in June.
Right. So if this body did vote no, what would happen? Who is Suzanne? I believe Ms. Sybil is the designee for signing agreements. She would still go forward and sign this?
Absolutely. And she wouldn't be the person signing it. It would be Kervin and the mayor.
Okay, but in the master developer agreement, there was a designee in there to sign these.
To sign purchase agreements, yes.
Right. Okay, so this says that they're authorizing the officials, but that's not what we're doing today. So
yes, you are. You absolutely are.
But if we say that we're not authorizing the officials to do it, you're saying it doesn't matter.
Well, it would lead to some serious legal complications in the agreement, and if there is an expectation that you want to unwind the agreement, you can't do that.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this particular terms that you've put before us with the land swap and all. It's not the land swap that's an issue here. It's all the other affiliated things and things we're agreeing to provide in the future that are included in this term sheet.
All of which were discussed in June and approved in June. There is nothing new that is coming before you. We discussed in detail, and in the master development agreement, in detail, it talks about the need for the county parcels. So
for sure, it talks about this idea of acquiring land and land swaps. It doesn't talk about 400 parking spaces, dedicated parking spaces for commuter rail, but pedestrian connectivity that we are paying. It doesn't talk about Pompano Beach paying for those things.
It very clearly in the presentation talked in June, talked about public parking and what we were going to do, how we were going to fund it. So with all due respect, Commissioner, Everything you needed to know was presented in June and at many meetings before June. So everyone had the opportunity in June to say a swap between the county and the city and the CRA for properties within the project area would not be a good idea. And that's not what happened. It was approved.
Well, that's actually not true. There were some of us sitting who voted against that development agreement at the time.
understand, but at the end of it-
because we didn't agree with these terms.
But the commission, the legislative body, approved a master development agreement, adopted resolutions that expressly authorized finalization of the agreement. And I would again respectfully say, we did not have to bring this to you. We could have just given it to the proper officials to sign. We thought it was important because we don't have to write a check to the county, and the Annie Weaver Center will continue to operate. And
It's not about the land swap. It's about all of the future obligations and spelling those out that were not
There are
detailed in
no
that.
new obligations, Commissioner. With all due respect, I have to respectfully say you're just simply mistaken about that. There are not new obligations.
So the master development agreement said that we were obligated to put in 200 dedicated parking spaces for commuter rail west of Dixie at a certain cost.
It doesn't have
read
that
every page of it.
It does not have that specificity.
Exactly.
But we certainly, at the presentation, showed all of the diagrams relating to public parking. The developer made very clear all of the areas that would be critical for public parking. So
Totally
it's
agree.
not new.
There were pretty pictures. There were Ps everywhere, parking garages but no clear what they were for, what they were dedicated to. So this one is 200 spaces west of Dixie, 200 shared, although the agreement says up to 400. They're hoping for that we can acquire land east of Dixie for up to 400 parking spaces for commuter rail. So up to 600 parking spaces for commuter rail, really, some of them shared, that level of specificity was not in that master developer agreement.
The master developer agreement contemplates that those types of details are included.
So I think we do agree. It contemplates that there are future agreements that will happen and future deals. So
not future agreements, future land acquisition or exchange.
This isn't about land acquisition or exchange. It's all the other things that we're tying to this land exchange.
Commissioner, with all due respect, the item before you is an exchange that was approved in June.
It's a term sheet, but okay. The other thing is we keep talking about the county process here. So the county did approve this today on the consent agenda. So someone put it on the consent agenda there, and I understand why the county approved it. This is, if I were the county, I would approve this all day long. It's a great deal for the county, a great deal. So pointing and saying the county did it without even a discussion is evidence of exactly what I'm talking about here. Right. All day long, the county should support this. We are giving them an awful lot of commitments here. So that was my point on the process here of what we're doing. So it says, and maybe it shouldn't say this, but it says we are authorizing the proper officials to execute these agreements, which are binding to the city of Pompano Beach after this vote today. It's not some term sheet that comes back with an agreement later on. This is 100% binding, or already was binding, and didn't even need to be here, apparently. Correct?
That's correct.
Very good.
Thank you.
More? Okay.
Mayor?
Yeah, before, Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
I let Commissioner Fournier go there, but we were still in public. Can I just continue in public?
Finish. Yes,
okay,
yes.
Further input from the public on this item? Is there any further input?